here is my top. Remember my markers. So this is one side seam marker, this is another side seam marker, and these are the ones in the center. Now this motif, I'm going to join it like this. I need this side open because I'm starting this side somewhere in the middle of it, or not really in the middle, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to end joining this side like this because it's going to be uncomfortable for me to slip stitch here and cut the thread and so on and so forth. So I'm going to turn it like this because I want to start this new side from a corner in order to join to these picots. So let's start our last row of this motif with chain 1, single crochet into this same space. Now chain 2, a V-stitch with a picot in the next space, in this space. Let's work a V-stitch out of double crochet. Now picot out of chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from hook, and another double crochet into this same space. That's our V-stitch with a picot. Now chain 1, in the next space work the same thing, a V-stitch with a picot. So double crochet and then a picot out of chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from hook, double crochet into this same space. Now chain 2, 1, 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2, and work again a section of V-stitches with a chain 1 in between them. So that's going to be a V-stitch into this next space, 1 double crochet, 1 picot, a second double crochet into this same space, chain 1, a new V-stitch into the next space. So double crochet, picot, double crochet into this same space, chain 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2, and V-stitch into this corner. So double crochet, picot, double crochet into this same space. So that's one side, and now we need to work the corner. Chain 2, next comes a picot that is joining to this marker. So the picot is made out of chain 3, so I'm going to work the chain 1, and then the second chain 1 is going to be the slip stitch into the picot to be joined. So it's a good thing I kept my markers, and I'm going to remove this marker for now, and I'm going to slip stitch into this picot here. That will be my second chain from my working picot. Now you need one more chain, so chain 1, that's your 3rd chain 1 for your picot. Slip stitch into the 3rd chain from hook, if you look at it like this. Now chain 2 to complete your corner, and work a V-stitch again in this space. But don't finish this V-stitch. Work first your double crochet. Now put this marker back in there, so you're gonna still need this joining picot here. And let's continue with our V-stitch. So this is gonna have a picot that needs to be joined to the next picot of your top. Okay? So again, chain 1 and then slip stitch into your next picot from the top here. From the top of the dress, that's what I meant. So chain 1, that's your third chain from your picot. Slip stitch into the third chain from hook, which is this, and complete your V-stitch with a double crochet into this same space. Okay, now we need to mirror back this side. So chain 2, 1, 2, single crochet into the next space of your motif, chain 2, and another section of V-stitches with a chain 1 in between. So in the next space, work 1 double crochet. Now start your joining picot, chain 1, slip stitch into the next picot of your top, chain 1, slip stitch into the third chain from hook, double crochet into this same space. That's your first V-stitch. Now chain 1, work your next V-stitch with a joining picot into the next space. So double crochet and then joining picot. Always make sure to grab 2 loops of your picot from the top and finish this V-stitch. See the pattern here? 2 V-stitches next to each other with a chain 1 in between, and then in between the 2 V-stitches there is a chain 2, single crochet, chain 2. That is for all 3 sides except for the bottom side. So let's continue with chain 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2. Now V-stitch that you're going to have to connect to your top. Now the joining picot, slip stitch into the third chain from hook, double crochet into this same space, chain 1, another V-stitch into the next space. So do not forget your picots. The motif is not complicated in itself. I am sorry, I am moving my camera. It's just, you just have to have a lot of things at the back of your head to remember. And that comes with a lot of practice. Like if you work too many motifs, you're gonna know those things without thinking about them. So chain 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2, V-stitch with a picot to join into your next picot from the top of the dress, finishing my picot, finishing my V-stitch now with 1 double crochet into this same space, chain 1. So again, a V-stitch with a picot. I have to show you this side completely, even if you already got the idea how to work this. I am sorry, I keep moving the camera. Now chain 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2, now V-stitch in the corner. So double crochet, now picot, finishing up this V-stitch, and then we work the corner with a picot again that joins to the last picot here. So chain 2, that's for the corner, and then we start the picot. Chain 1, remove this marker for a bit and join to this picot. Chain 1, slip stitch into the third chain from hook into this one here. Chain 2, you can put the marker back in here for now and finish your corner with a V-stitch, already starting a new side of the square motif. Now picot, a full picot, because on this side we have nothing to join it to for now. 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the third chain from hook, and this is how it goes. Now immediately after this V-stitch you mirror back, like chain 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2, and immediately follow with V-stitches separated by a chain 1. So picot first in this V-stitch, complete the V-stitch with a double crochet. Now chain 1 and then another V-stitch with a picot. And finishing up the V-stitch. So next thing you're gonna work the chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and you'll repeat this. I'm gonna show you the chart for those who want to use it as a guide. If not, just look into your motif and keep going the way you see. So just to explain to you, normally on this side, and this side, we're gonna work what's in black. Yeah, so do not look at these things on those sides that I showed you, only whatever is in black. On the bottom side, when I'm gonna get here to join to the skirt, we're gonna work this thing. So instead of the chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, you're gonna work a chain 1 and another V-stitch with a picot and a chain 1. Okay, so here is the chart. Screenshot it, or I don't know. I'm gonna finish up this side and I'll see you here where we have to work the skirt, like when we have to join to the skirt. So I'm ready to work the corner of this motif in order to join to the skirt. The skirt really doesn't matter with which section you start, because the rounds are worked in the round and the seam is not going to be visible. But if you want to be following like a principle or something, you can always keep your starting round at the side, but that won't change anything. So if I'm gonna, let me think a little bit, I'll move it up like that, just to be sure that my side seam stays at the back. So I'm just gonna go in and work into this in one of these repeats here with the popcorns. So if I have my marker ready here, that's going to be my first picot to join. Remember, I told you to leave this aside because you can continue the skirt anytime. And let's keep going. So this is my corner here that I have to work. So chain 2 and then chain 1 of the picot. Remove this marker for a second, like this, and slip stitch into this picot. Chain 1 and slip stitch into your third chain from hook. Chain 2. Continue with a V-stitch into your working motif. Now, this picot is also joining to the next one on your work, on your skirt part of the dress. So just make sure you don't twist this thing, so we don't have unwanted accidents here. Chain 1 and finish your picot in the motif and finish your V-stitch with double crochet. Now I want to insert my marker back into this picot I joined because I don't want to miss any picots when I join the next motifs, because they are the same color here. Sometimes you might miss or skip them, and then you look back and like, oh, what did I do here? So chain 1. Remember, we do not have a chain 2 here and single crochet because we have more picots to the skirt. So in every space of your working motif, you're gonna have a V-stitch. So next V-stitch here. Now picot. I think you got the idea, right? Just don't want you to feel like you're already bored watching this thing, watching the process, because it takes a bit of time to complete this row. So chain 1 and a new V-stitch into the next space. With always, the V-stitch is always with picots. I don't have to mention that anymore because that's what we're working here. I'm sorry, I keep touching the camera. It's not very comfortable to crochet, to look at your work, and in the same time to make sure that you guys can see it on my camera. So completing the V-stitch of the motif, chain 1 and a new one to the next picot. So just keep going like this till the next marked picot. And don't forget to put the stitch marker back into the picot because you need it until you join the next motif. So that's how it looks so far. I don't know if you can see anything, if you understand what I'm doing here. Okay, more or less. That's how it should look. The top, the side, and the skirt. And then we're gonna finish this motif where we started in this point. So I completed joining this motif to one section of the skirt. This is how it looks. Every V-stitch with a picot. the corner picots what they joined, keep them marked until next time you join a new motif. So I'm gonna turn this work like this, and I'm gonna continue working on this side where I started this whole round. So I just finished the corner and I started a new V-stitch. So now I have to work my picot. This time I'm not joining it to anything. Slip stitch into the third chain from hook, finish the V-stitch with a double crochet into this same space. Now here we don't need to work in every space a V-stitch, so we have the chain 2, single crochet, chain 2. So this time we're gonna work that very thing, chain 2, single crochet into the next space, chain 2, and now it's the last section of 2 V-stitches with a chain 1 in between. So first V-stitch with picot, chain 1, and the last V-stitch with picot. And we finish it with chain 2 and slip stitch into the first single crochet of this row or round, chain 1. Cut this thread a bit longer than usual, so you could weave it in some of the below rows, some between the stitches of the single crochets, between the back loops of the single crochet stitches of your previous rows. So that's how it looks so far. It will look better once we have all the motifs joined. I don't know if I need to show you how to join the next motif. For example, I want to show you something. It's just a thing that I do. So imagine that this motif is square, because I'm not done with this. And I'm gonna continue joining my new motif on this side, like from right to left, if you look at like this, okay? And I start my motif, then the last row of the motif, I start on the side where I do not need to join to anything, to any other side. So I'm gonna start on this side because this is gonna be open for me for the next motif. I'm gonna work like here. First I'm gonna work this side, and then I'll join to the bottom, like to the skirt one, with 14 picots here. So remember, for this side of the picot you will need V stitches with picot in every space of the motif. And then when you move to this side, you're gonna have only 10 picots here. So remember to have the chain 2, single crochet, and chain 2 between the sections of a pair of V stitches with picots. Here the same, you're gonna have 10 picots, here 10 picots, but here you will end this side where you started, and so on and so forth with every motif around until you get to your last motif. So your last motif, you're not gonna have a choice, you're gonna have to start, for example, you're gonna start joining with a side motif and then go, I don't know, whatever you think it's fine with you to start, whatever you want to start joining that last motif. But all the sides are going to be joined there, so there's no going around that. If I can go around here and start this side with an open space, then yeah, but when it's the last motif, you have to join them to all the sides. Okay, see you in the next part.